Hey everybody, it's Abishur here from Mr. Geopolitics. I'm sure a lot of us are taking stock of what's just happened in Lebanon over the past couple of hours, where over 2,700 people have been injured, 9 people have been killed as of recording this video at this time because of pagers exploding used by Hezbollah. And these pagers were detonated likely by Israel, a covert operation by Mossad. There's a lot riding on what's just happened. This is a massive escalation and also a massive new juncture for the Middle East. So I've identified 7 points that all of us should be considering as we think about what this means going forward. The first is the most obvious, which is that this is likely to lead to a massive retaliation by Hezbollah, the possibility of conflict between as Israel and Hezbollah is once again reaching new highs, very much like what was experienced just a few months ago when the head of Hamas was killed in Tehran and Hezbollah's second in command was killed in Beirut. There was big fear of a regional conflict. Now that Hezbollah has been struck this way, Hezbollah has to retaliate. And how Hezbollah retaliates could mean whether this is a one-off episode that fizzles out or whether this turns into a major conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. Connected to this is the big elephant in the room, which is Iran. Hezbollah is the most well-trained proxy of Iran, but going beyond this, the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon was injured today in this pager detonations. So Iran might view this as an attack on its state, on its country, the same way Iran viewed the attack on the Iranian consulate as Damascus as equal to an attack on Iranian soil. So what steps does Iran take? And will this be the point where Israel says war is now the path forward? The second point is that technology is now driving geopolitics. Geopolitics is increasingly revolving around the steps that nations are taking with technology. Consider that the US-China fight is very much technology centric, but the Israel-Hezbollah fight isn't. It's very much around conventional means of war. But what Israel has shown is that even in these kind of settings, technology is the main card to be played to deal the adversary a blow, and that by detonating the pagers, whether this was done because the pagers were tampered with months, if not years ago, or whether this was done through a new cyber attack similar to, let's say, Stuxnet, where Iranian centrifuges heated up and essentially destroyed themselves, whether this was a cyber attack by Israel on Hezbollah, the reality is that technology is now in the driver's seat of geopolitics. The third point is that Hezbollah used the pagers largely because they were a low-tech option. And this was done on purpose because the belief was that low-tech was more secure compared to, say, using traditional sophisticated smartphones like we all have. And that by using pagers as the primary means of communicating, Hezbollah and Iran were able to evade Israeli and American reconnaissance and surveillance. But in this case, even if the pagers enabled more covert communications, in this case, they posed as big of a security risk to Hezbollah as if the group was using sophisticated smartphones. The fourth point is that the Middle East is now entering a semi-permanent state of volatility, that the idea of the Middle East returning to normal operations where it was about development, where it was about foreign investment, where it was about business expansion, where it was about integration and going beyond the past, that is essentially becoming a pipe dream. That from Israel, Iran to Israel, Houthis to now Israel, Hezbollah, the flashpoints are not only getting worse, but they're spreading. And the Middle East as a whole is suffering as a result. The geography of the Middle East is increasingly being defined by war. And this is something that Arab capitals, Middle Eastern capitals, and global capitals are going to have to accept. This is the new status quo for the Middle East going forward. The fifth point is that diplomacy is effectively dead. And this is something I've talked about on Mr. Geopolitics before, which is that the entire point of diplomacy was to resolve tensions, was to resolve problems. But instead, what's happening is that diplomacy is simply walking back parties at a lesser and lesser extent each time. And in the case of Israel and Hezbollah or Israel and Iran, there isn't any resolution. It's simply that at different points, different sides are being paused and stopped. But the same anger and the same emotion and the same need to retaliate exists. It's simply being suppressed. So diplomacy is increasingly finding itself outplayed by the kind of geopolitics that's surfacing across the world, but it's specifically in this case in the Middle East. The sixth point is Turkey. After Iran, Turkey is perhaps the most vocal country against Israel. And just recently, Erdogan called for a Muslim uprising against Israel. And Turkey may view what's just taking place in Lebanon as another sign that it needs to take far more hostile action towards Israel. Remember that one of Israel's main energy arteries passes through Turkey, and Turkey hasn't throttled that yet, but it remains a nuclear card. And Turkey is also seeking BRICS membership, where Turkey may seek to turn BRICS into some kind of outfit that takes on Israel. But regardless of what Ankara plans, the idea of Israel and Turkey finding their relationship normalized is increasingly becoming something off in the horizon, unlikely to happen anytime soon. Turkey is likely to view the recent attack in Lebanon as, again, crossing Turkey's own red lines, just as it may cross Iran's red lines. And the seventh and last point is that a lot of countries, a lot of governments are going to begin to think about their technology acquisition, whether the technology that they've acquired, whether it's low tech or high tech, is safe from being sabotaged by their adversaries. And this could cause governments around the world to begin another round of due diligence, another round of re-examination of their military technologies in the public and covert spheres, and even begin to take steps to procure technology and acquire technology that's developed locally or developed purely by their closest and most reliable allies. So this is just a couple of thoughts that came to my mind as I'm watching what's taking place. Obviously, the situation is changing in real time, but I wanted to get you these thoughts as quickly as possible. I'll record another video if more thoughts come my way. But in the meantime, as you listen to what I'm saying, if you have any comments or thoughts, feel free to share them below, and talk soon.